What if your greatest gift is secretly hurting you? Today, we're exploring a truth that many sensitive souls need to hear: the dark reality of being an empath. Society tells us that feeling deeply is beautiful, that understanding others' emotions is a superpower. But what happens when this gift becomes a burden? When your ability to sense others' feelings starts destroying your own inner peace? Imagine walking through life constantly absorbing everyone's emotions like a sponge that never dries. That stranger's grief becomes your grief. Your friend's anxiety becomes your anxiety. Your coworker's stress becomes a weight you carry home. This isn't just empathy, it's emotional overwhelm masquerading as connection. The problem begins with how we're conditioned. From childhood, sensitive people learn to prioritize others' feelings over their own. We're praised for our understanding, our ability to comfort others. But no one teaches us the cost of this constant emotional absorption. We become the go-to person for emotional support, the shoulder everyone cries on, the eternal listener. And while this role might feel meaningful, it often leaves us emotionally bankrupt. What's really happening is a form of emotional identity crisis. When you're constantly tuned into others' frequencies, you lose touch with your own signal. Your authentic self becomes buried under layers of absorbed emotions, leading to what psychologists call emotional contagion. This isn't just a metaphor, it's a documented psychological phenomenon where we literally take on the emotional states of those around us. Let me share a personal story that might resonate with you. I remember sitting in a coffee shop, suddenly feeling overwhelming anxiety, my heart racing, palms sweating. It took hours to realize these feelings weren't mine. They belonged to the couple having a tense conversation next to me. This is the empath's burden, living life through others' emotional landscapes while losing sight of our own. But here's what no one tells you. Being an empath isn't about being everyone's emotional sponge. True empathy requires boundaries. Without them, we're not helping others. We're merely drowning alongside them. Think about it. How effective can you be in supporting others when you're constantly overwhelmed by their emotions? The science behind this is fascinating. Research shows that highly sensitive people have more active mirror neurons, making them naturally more attuned to others' emotional states. These mirror neurons fire both when we perform an action and when we observe others performing the same action, including emotional responses. But this sensitivity becomes problematic when we don't develop the skills to manage it. Think about how this plays out in daily life. You walk into a room and immediately sense tension. While others might notice it vaguely, you feel it in your body. Your shoulders tighten, your breathing becomes shallow, and suddenly you're carrying the weight of conflicts that aren't even yours. You might find yourself mediating disputes you're not part of, or taking on responsibility for others' happiness. This constant absorption leads to three major challenges that every empath faces, and understanding these is crucial for breaking free from the cycle. First, there's emotional exhaustion. Your nervous system becomes overwhelmed from processing not just your own feelings, but everyone else's too. It's like running a marathon every day, but instead of physical energy, you're depleting your emotional reserves. This exhaustion can manifest as chronic fatigue, anxiety, or even physical symptoms like headaches and muscle tension. Second, boundary erosion occurs naturally. When you can literally feel someone else's pain or disappointment, saying no becomes almost impossible. You find yourself agreeing to things you don't want to do, taking on problems that aren't yours to solve, all because the immediate discomfort of setting boundaries feels worse than the long-term drain of not having them. This creates a vicious cycle where the more you give, the more others come to expect from you. Third, and perhaps most critically, you lose touch with your own emotional compass. When you're constantly attuned to others' needs and feelings, distinguishing your own becomes increasingly difficult. You might find yourself wondering what you actually want versus what you've absorbed from those around you. This disconnection from self can lead to decision paralysis, relationship problems, and a deep sense of loss of identity. The impact of this constant emotional absorption goes beyond just feeling tired. It can manifest as chronic anxiety, unexplained physical symptoms, and a persistent feeling of being overwhelmed. Many empaths develop unconscious coping mechanisms, isolating themselves, using work as a distraction, or turning to various forms of escapism. Some might even develop what psychologists call emotional armor, becoming seemingly cold or distant as a way to protect themselves. But here's where transformation begins. Being an empath isn't about becoming everyone's emotional caretaker. It's about learning to use your sensitivity wisely, with boundaries and discernment. Think of your empathic ability as a powerful telescope. It's meant to help you see and understand others better, not to lose yourself in their emotional universe. The path forward isn't about becoming less sensitive. It's about becoming more skilled at managing your gift. This starts with understanding that your emotional space is sacred. Just as you wouldn't let strangers walk into your home uninvited, you shouldn't let every emotion you encounter move into your emotional space. Let me share another personal story that illustrates this transformation. For years, I thought being a good empath meant never turning away from someone else's pain. I would spend hours listening to friends' problems, absorbing their stress, taking on their emotional burdens as my own. I thought this was what empathy meant, but I was constantly exhausted, anxious, and disconnected from my own needs. The turning point came when I realized that true empathy isn't about carrying others' emotions. It's about understanding them while maintaining your own emotional integrity. This led me to develop what I now call the emotional container practice. Here's how it works. Before entering any situation, take a moment to establish your emotional baseline. How do you feel right now before absorbing anyone else's energy? This becomes your reference point, your emotional home base. Throughout the day, regularly check in with this baseline. Are the emotions you're feeling truly yours, or have you absorbed them from others? Next, implement the grounding ritual. This isn't about blocking emotions, it's about filtering them. Let in what serves you, let go of what doesn't. When you feel yourself being pulled into someone else's emotional storm, pause and ask, is this mine to carry? This simple question can be transformative. The release protocol is equally crucial. When you notice yourself carrying others' emotions, practice conscious release. Breathe in acceptance, breathe out what isn't yours to carry. This isn't selfish, it's necessary for sustainable empathy. I like to visualize this as golden light filling me with my own energy while releasing absorbed emotions back to the universe. Remember, your sensitivity is a gift, but like any powerful tool, it needs to be wielded with wisdom. An empath with boundaries isn't less compassionate, they're more sustainable in their ability to help others. Think of it like a battery. You can't charge others if you're constantly depleted. This journey isn't about dimming your light, it's about learning to shine it effectively. When you learn to manage your empathic nature, something remarkable happens. You become more present, more authentic in your connections. Your relationships deepen because they're based on true empathy rather than emotional entanglement. One of the most beautiful transformations I've witnessed is when empaths start reclaiming their emotional space. They often discover parts of themselves they'd forgotten existed, their own dreams, desires, and feelings that had been buried under layers of others' emotions. They find they can still be deeply caring and supportive, but now from a place of strength rather than depletion. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by others' emotions, if you've lost yourself in the sea of others' feelings, know that you're not alone. This is your invitation to reclaim your emotional space while keeping your gift intact. Life truly begins when you learn to balance your empathic nature with healthy boundaries. Your sensitivity doesn't have to hurt you. It's not about becoming less empathic. It's about becoming more skillful with your gift. The journey of an empath isn't about feeling less. It's about feeling more intentionally, more authentically, and ultimately more powerfully. Share your experiences in the comments. Have you struggled with emotional boundaries? What strategies have helped you maintain your sensitivity while protecting your peace? Let's create a community where we can support each other in managing this beautiful, challenging gift. Because when empaths learn to thrive, we don't just heal ourselves, we help create a more emotionally intelligent world.